Hey, this is Jerry from Bliz Studio, and in this particular demo, we're going to do something just a little bit different. What are we going to do? Well, we are going to set up two different types of skyboxes. One is a procedural skybox, which is pretty easy. Then we're also going to create a 3D environment. Then we're going to use a reflection probe that takes a picture of the 3D scene, and then we're going to use that as a skybox. And if you're ready to get started, let's go. So here I'm in Photoshop. So what I've created was just some cotton candy clouds. So they're kind of pink and a little bit lighter on the top, a little bit darker towards the bottom. Now I've made this transparent because I want it to be transparent over in my Unity project. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this out real quick. Now you can use any graphics software that you want. I'm just using Photoshop. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this. And I will go ahead and create this as cotton candy clouds.png. Cool. All right, so we've got that set. Now let's go pop over into Unity and let's see, that is cotton candy clouds right there in my project. Perfect, that's exactly what we want. So what I want to do is make a material out of this. So I'm going to go into my materials folder and control click or right click and create material. And I'm going to go ahead and just call this cotton candy clouds. Boom, there we go. All right, so I have that material. Now what I want to do is I want to change the type. So the URP lit shader to be an unlit shader. Okay, so I'm going to go URP, Universal Render Pipeline, and just choose unlit. And then on the surface type, I'm going to choose transparent because this is a transparent graphic. And then what I want to do is I want to take that cotton candy graphic and just drop it right in my base map. So this little area right next to the word base map. Okay, so I'm going to take my cotton candy graphic, drag it right over into that little square, and boom, there we go. So now we have this graphic applied as a material. Cool, so we've got that set up. Now, I've got some options here. If I want to do some tiling, we can probably play with that a little bit later on. But for right now, this works. Now, in my scene, I have currently a main camera, directional light. I don't have a skybox applied. And then I also have some candy canes that I've kind of like arranged as a 3D element within the scene here. So we have those kind of all set up. All right. So there's two different types of skyboxes that I'm going to create in this particular demo. One is we're going to create a procedural skybox. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that first. So what I'm going to do is to right click and create a new material. And we will call this Mint Sky. Cool. All right, so we've got Mint Sky set up. So we're going to go into the shader and we're going to go and choose Skybox as the option. And you see we have a couple different options here, but we're going to go into procedural. All right. So here is a little preview of the procedural skybox. And we've got the option to choose the tint and the ground color. Okay. So for the tint of the sky, I want this to be a mint color. So I'm going to change it to this kind of like green mint, somewhere in that range. I think that works pretty good. And then I'm also going to change the ground. So the ground, I'm going to change more to the pink, darker pink of that cloud that I have set up. Okay, so you can see kind of what the preview of that looks like. All right, so we've got that set up. That looks good. Now let's go ahead and apply this skybox material to our skybox. So the way we're going to do that is we need to have the lighting tab selected. And if you go to Window, Render, Lighting, this is where you'll get that tab from if you don't have it up, okay? And so here you can see I don't have a skybox material. Usually there's a default material that's set there, but I want to go ahead and use my Mint Sky. I just drag that right into my skybox and there you go. So we now have a new skybox for our game. Now this only gets us part of the way. So you can absolutely use this and I think it looks great, but let's take this one step further. So what I'm going to do is to create a cylinder. Okay. So I want that cylinder to be really, really large and I'm going to apply that cotton candy graphic to that cylinder as a material. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. We're gonna actually put a cylinder in our scene. So let's go and create a 3D cylinder, okay? And here it is down here. Let's maybe make this at 0, 0, 0. Okay, so here is our cylinder. Now by default, the normals of a cylinder are facing out. So any 3D game objects that we create in Unity, the normals are going to be facing out. So that's the direction of the skin that is applied to the mesh, the 3D object. Now, instead of having it facing out, we actually want it to face in, because what we're going to do is we're going to take this cylinder and make it really big so it's all the way around our scene, okay? So first I'm going to make my cylinder a little bit bigger. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make this so it's a lot larger so it wraps around my scene. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's just make this a lot bigger. So we're going to go maybe 50 units by, let's say maybe 20 units on the Y and another 50 in the Z. Okay, so we kind of have this so where it's kind of wrapped around our scene. Now we're actually inside of the cylinder right now, and we're looking through the skin. Because the skin faces out, we can't see it. So what we want to do is have the skin face in, the normals, okay? So an easy way for me to do that is to use Pro Builder. So I have Pro Builder right here, and if you don't have Pro Builder, you can go ahead and download it from the package manager. So if you just open that up, type in Pro, you'll find that, and it'll download really fast. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and select my cylinder, and I want to do a Pro Builderize. So I'm going to click on that real quick. Now it's become a Pro Builder type 3D object, and which is cool because we can now go and I'm going to select the top faces because we don't need those. So what I want to do is to flip those normals. So the way the skin faces, so as opposed to facing out, we want it to actually face in. So let's go ahead and with my cylinder selected, I want to select flip normals. So now we can see the inside of the cylinder versus the outside. So what we need to do is to take the cotton candy clouds material that we've created, and we need to actually just drag it onto our cylinder. Boom. So now we actually have clouds that are part of that cylinder. Now you can see what that looks like. Now the cylinder is just a little bit on the big side. So let's go ahead and first I think I want to move this down. Let's go ahead and move this game object down, something like that. Okay, so now that we have that set up, we can kind of determine how big this cylinder needs to be. Now you can see where I have the candy canes kind of out towards the outside. So let's go ahead and make our cylinder just a little bit bigger. So let's go and just scale this up slightly, and then I'm going to go ahead and just scale the Y down. And then I think I might just move it down just a touch more. Yeah, I think that actually looks pretty good. So now that we have that set up, okay, so I need to make a reflection probe. So I'm going to go to light and then reflection probe. And what this does is it acts like a camera that looks in all directions. It sees everything that's there, and then we can bake that so that it's there as one set of 6-sided graphics. So we created the reflection probe, and then for our reflection probe to see anything in our scene or to kind of capture it, it has to be static. So we're going to select everything that's in our scene that we want to be captured by our reflection probe, and we want to choose static in the inspector. Then it's going to say, hey, do you want the children of those objects to be static as well? And yes, we do. So I'm going to select static. Okay, so we have that all set up, and I want to make sure my reflection probe is in the center of my scene. So let's go and zero that out real quick. Okay, so we have our reflection probe in the scene, and let's go to the resolution. Currently, the resolution is set up as 128 pixels, which is really small. We don't want it to be that small. We want it to be a lot bigger. So let's go ahead and take it up to 1024. And then we need to kind of determine what else that we want applied. And I think this actually looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and bake it. So we'll hit bake. Sweet, and now my reflection probe is done, and you can see a preview of it here. Now this is really just a cube map. It's just 6 sides of a cube, and it's kind of created a 3D version of that. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm gonna go in and create a new material. So I'm going to create a new material so that we can use our cube map. All right, so let's go and candy cane sky. Okay, so I got my candy cane sky. We're going to go ahead and choose Skybox and then cube map. So I'm going to take my reflection probe that I just created and drag it into my cube map. So I have a cube map of all my candy canes in the sky. So the cool thing is that we can now just delete everything that's in our scene, or you could go ahead and create a new scene. And instead of using this mint sky, we can actually use the material that we just created that contains all the candy canes. So right here, instead of a Skybox material, mint sky, we're going to use our candy cane sky. So we'll drag that in. And boom, there we go. We now have a sky that's made up of all of our candy canes and our clouds. And again, this is a 3D cube map, and we can look any way around, and there we go. So I also created one that was a star-based one. So I created stars that were all in the sky based off particles, and then created a cylinder that then had kind of like a nebula, around it, or a Milky Way kind of thing around it. And so let's go ahead and drag that in real quick. So we can change this to see a different skybox. So you see now you can create your very own skyboxes right in Unity. Hey, I hope you learned just a little bit more about skyboxes in this particular demo. And if you like these tutorials, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and that little bell icon down there so you know when the next tutorial is available. Until next time, peace.